Chapter 3. The Passenger. It was a sultry evening at the Los Angeles airport, and people waiting to board the 6:20 p.m. flight to New York were frustrated by the several hours of delay. When the boarding had just been completed, airport officials received a message for additional maintenance procedures. The passengers were asked to deboard as the officials did the required checks. They knew she was a tough customer at the outset. Everybody had their eyes on her. She was the voluble, complaining sort who wouldn't calm down easily.
So much time wasted. No value for one's time these days. That's what...
Her words were loud enough for all to hear. She had given the flight attendants a hard time, and though everyone was on edge, she was quite the limit. They'd all just boarded the flight again, and the passengers were anxious to just take off and reach the destination without more ado. To add to the woe, this lady was now claiming that her pillow had by mistake gone with the check-in luggage instead of the hand luggage.
"I just want my pillow," she told the flight attendant.
"I am afraid that won't be possible, ma'am. Company policy will not allow that. You can collect the check-in luggage in New York."
It was clear the flight attendant was trying hard to maintain her cool. She had undoubtedly explained the situation a couple of times already without much success.
"But really, it would be so much better for me to have it with me now,"
the lady insisted. The attendant kept telling her that it simply wasn't possible to open check-in luggage after boarding. The lady had an aggressive jawline and severely combed back, short, ash-blonde hair. You couldn't call her fat exactly, but her heavy-set structure added to her belligerence. She was about to say something when her attention was diverted by the arrival of the passenger who was to be seated next to her. You could tell by her face that he did not please her. A young, thin Asian man was asking to get through to his window seat. The lady's concerns about her pillow were soon a thing of the past, as she told the flight attendant.
"I believe I'm allowed to change seats, at least."
The flight attendant repressed a sigh as she answered,
"No, ma'am, the flight is full, and I would have to request another passenger to switch seats with you. But as takeoff is imminent, you will have to wait, I'm afraid."
The lady was unwilling to give up.
"But the lighting here doesn't suit my eyes. I have weak eyes, you see, a rare condition. I could do with this seat a couple of aisles down."
Other passengers and the staff could guess that it wasn't the lighting but her fellow passenger that was making her uncomfortable. It had not been 2 years since the Vietnam War was over, and many felt justified in their anti-Asian sentiments.
"The lighting will be just the same everywhere in the aircraft, I assure you, ma'am. I can just get you a sleep mask in the meantime."
This time there was an icy coldness to the flight attendant's voice. Though the lady's mouth was working, she couldn't really find an argument against this line of reasoning. She did, however, keep audibly tutting and glaring at the young man, who had by now pulled the hood of his parka coat over his head and was shifting in his seat, seemingly preparing for a nap. A moment later, much to everyone's vexation, the lady again piped up.
"Hello there? What's wrong with your face? Something is wrong with this man's face."
Some passengers gasped. It was horrid that this woman now seemed to be making comments on the racial features of the man. This was too clear an outrage to be ignored. Someone shouted at her,
"Hey, woman, you seem as ugly on the inside as on the outside."
Some of the others sitting in the back seats were now craning their heads to get a better look at the pair of them. The flight attendants were now again scrambling to their feet to hush the lady when she gave a cry of alarm.
"Oh, this man, he's..."
She did not complete her sentence, eyes wide with alarm. The man meanwhile attempted to be soothing her, saying, "Please, ma'am, calm down, I beg you." But the woman had let out another scream.
"His mouth, good Lord, please get me away from this thing. Don't touch me."
The passengers were now grumbling. They had already been held up for so long, and the woman's comments irked them to no end. They were now chattering among themselves.
"Oh, my days, have that lady removed."
"How much longer will we be held up?"
"The bigotry of some people. What a bitch."
Someone roared. The lady was shouting hysterically now.
"What the hell are you? Get me away from him. His eyes. Oh, Lord, please, I'm not crazy."
Meanwhile, unbeknownst to the passengers and staff who couldn't see what the lady could, the Asian man no longer looked anything like he did moments ago when he boarded. His skin, now 2 shades paler than before, was melting like petroleum jelly kept out in the sun for too long. His eyes were 2 vertical slits blinking in the depth of the hood of his jacket. His hands, which he stuffed back hastily into the pockets of his pants, were turning a scaly white-grey. His mouth, while it retained the faint holographic imprint of the Asian man's lips, seemed to be melting. The more the woman screamed, the more he seemed to metamorphose. The woman was now tugging at the collar of his jacket in an attempt to pull his hood off his head, shouting, Look at him, The entire aircraft had erupted in hisses of protest and angry shouting.
Get that crazy lady off.
She's physically assaulting him?
Shame on you, you fat walrus.
Stupid, bigoted witch. Look at your own ugly face. In a moment more, perhaps the woman may have exposed the man to the world, but just then a sturdy pair of hands ousted her from her seat and said,
Airport police, ma'am. Please get up and walk with us.
Please, listen to him. That thing, arrest it.
The lady's bizarre explanations fell on deaf ears as her grip on the Asian man's collar loosened and she was dragged from her seat. Frog marched between the crew and a few policemen. The passengers breathed a sigh of relief. Some of them even hooted and cheered as the lady was finally forced off the flight. In all the chaos, they missed one of the policemen blinking vertically in commiseration with the Asian man.